Welcome to Ramberry Bastion. Oh, wait, that's not right. Welcome to Huckleberry Bastion. To conclude our final video in the Rambo Survival Series, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to take a look at the Rambo Survival Knife and give you my opinion on it as a survival knife, now that I've had an opportunity to use it in the same ways that Rambo used it in his movie First Blood, by making the boar spear and also by attempting to make the spring spear trap. To be fair to Rambo and fans of the Rambo Survival Knife, what I have here is not the knife that was used in the movie, nor is it a high-end replica of the knife from the First Blood movie. What it is, it's a cheap knockoff that kind of combines the features of the knife from the first Rambo and second Rambo movie. Now, although I'm not a fan of the hollow handle and screw-in tang design for a survival knife, I just don't feel that that makes for a strong knife. The quality of the materials used in the knife and the methods and quality of the construction are going to make a huge difference in the performance of the knife during our test. This replica knife has an overall length of about 14.5 inches. It has about a 7.5 inch cutting area for the blade. It comes to a clip point. It has a sharpened spine and this saw back on the spine of the blade. You can see that it's about 1/8 of an inch thick, which is fine for a hard use kind of survival knife. So this blade is made from 440 stainless steel. Now the Rambo blade in the movie is made out of D2 steel. D2 is a stronger steel and it holds an edge a lot longer and a lot better. But the stainless steel is easier for people to sharpen, and that's why they used it. Now there's nothing wrong with 440 stainless steel because it is a little bit easier to sharpen than the harder steels like D2, and it does have corrosion resistance, but you can never be sure the quality of the 440 steel that you're getting. Now the sawback on this knife is different from the one used in the movie. This just has a single row of large saw teeth, but in the movie it had a single and double row. Now, although these are very sharp, we saw how ineffective they were in cutting through wood or being used in a saw-like manner. With the length of the knife and the weight, it should make for a good chopper, and it did for a time, until it started to weaken and break. The problem with this knife is actually kind of the gimmick that makes it a survival knife, and that is the hollow handle construction and the small tang, because that creates a great weakness in this knife. Now I'm going to look more closely at the kind of survival gimmick and also the greatest weakness of this knife, which is the hollow handle and the screw-in tang. So this one's been worn down through use and now doesn't stand there very well at all, so I can just pop it right off. Now if we look at the amount of tang that actually goes into the handle, it's only a little bit of this, and that's about a 7/8 of an inch, and that's all that's holding it in. And realistically there's even a smaller part because it's not all touching inside of the handle, and under use it's been wiggling around, and the actual teeth for where you screw it in have worn down, so there's not much holding it in there at all. Now if we look at the hole that it screws into the handle, that too has worn away. And the reason it's done that is because in this replica, the handle is made out of recycled cheap aluminum. So under pressure from chopping and building our traps, it's worn down until it's just no longer effectively holding that handle in there. The movie knife, however, was made from D2 steel. The handle was also made from the same steel, so it was a lot stronger. And it didn't screw in like this. It was actually flat, and from the diagrams that I've looked at, it looked like it just shoved in, and then there was some kind of pin holding it in. So it would have made a much stronger design, and you wouldn't have had the problem of it wearing down like this and popping out. Now that we've talked a bit about the features of this particular version of the Rambo knife, I'm going to look at it as a survival knife. Now, the survival gimmick is the hollow handle, of course, because inside the hollow handle, you take the end cap off. I'll show you here. The end cap comes off, and inside the handle, it's a little survival kit. So you have a bit of a survival kit, and you have some storage room to put more gear of your own in there. If we take a closer look at the end cap for the handle, you'll see that they've included a compass, a tiny button compass in it. Now, if we look, let's see, north is this way. Oh wait, no, north is this way. Let's turn this more. Oh, north is that way now. The reason it's not working is because on the end cap, they've put another part of the survival kit, which are these steel rings, little keychain rings, that are used for the saw, and I'll show you that in a bit. Now, with those off, it does point north. And the reason it does that, even though it's in a metal end cap, is because that metal end cap is made from recycled aluminum, so it doesn't affect your compass. It's kind of a die cast aluminum. You can see it's just put into a mold. This version also has a lanyard hole, and you'll see that kind of in the second Rambo knife. It's not actually on the Rambo First Blood knife. Also, it has like an O-ring, a rubber ring here to kind of help seal it, keep your things dry. But with these rings in the way, I don't know how effective that's going to be. Now we'll take a look at what's included in the survival kit inside the handle. Of course, you could also make your own survival kit, which is always recommended. But it's pretty standard. You're going to have matches and a striker, which Rambo used in the movie. You're going to have this saw, which you use the rings as handles and pull back and forth. Now, I'm not sure why you would need that with a large knife with a saw back, but pretty standard stuff. Inside here, we have some monofilament and hooks. I believe there was a point in the movie where Rambo used some monofilament or something close to it to stitch a cut that he had. He stitched it back together. Now, I don't remember him using fish hooks in the movie, but every survival kit out there that you can buy is going to come with fish hooks, and it's a good idea. I include fish hooks in my own survival kit. What else do we have? We have a couple weights for your fishing line, and also have some needles. Now, these look like pretty standard needles that you'd use to sew clothing and other things together. In the movie, with the monofilament, Rambo stitched himself back together. Now, I have a needle in my kit that's made specifically for stitching yourself back together, and it's not straight like this. It's art to make things a little easier to go through the skin and back out. But in an emergency, I guess you could use one of these. So I'm curious how well this little saw is going to work. So I'm going to give it a try and find out. Well, it didn't work very well. It broke on us, and it's extremely hot. It's too hot to even touch. And how much tree do we get through? Not much at all. So I think it'd be more effective being a fire starter than it would be as a saw. There are really three things about this knife that I don't like, which I feel that makes it a fail as a survival knife. One, and the most obvious one, which I've spoken about, is the weakness of the hollow handle design and the small screw-in tang. The second one is the sharpened spine with the sawback. This sawback I found to be pretty useless, even though it is quite sharp. Also, it makes it difficult to baton, because when you're trying to baton, your baton is just getting cut to pieces on the back of the knife, and if it were flat like this the whole way across, you got a better surface to make contact and baton well with it. And the last feature is the materials itself. The aluminum in the handle makes it weak, and I'm not sure about the quality of the 440 steel that's being used in this knife. One other thing is that even though this is about 1/8 of an inch thick, which is good for a survival knife, it tapers and thins towards the edge. So here it's 1/8 of an inch thick, but as you get out towards the edge, it gets much, much thinner, and you're liable to break the tip off or have a failure up at a more narrower, weaker point of the knife when under hard use. My final thoughts on the Rambo Survival Knife. Now, the knife that Rambo used in the movie was a custom-made $2,000 plus knife made from titanium, D2 steel. So, could he have used that in the way he did in the movie to make the traps, to make the spear, and so on? Absolutely. He had a high-end knife. Could you use this knife, this low-end replica? No. I think it's going to fail on you. Although it has the features that make for a useful knife in the wild, the large blade, the weight would normally make for a good chopping knife. The handle weakness makes chopping impossible, because after a while it's going to break on you. Would I carry the Rambo survival knife as my survival knife in the wild? I wouldn't, because the feature that makes it a survival knife, or the hollow handle here, is not really that useful. I mean, it's nice to have that on the knife itself, but you can carry a kit that small in the sheath or in your pocket. So it's really not that good when you think about what you have to give up in strength for the knife. And having a strong knife is far more important. If you love the Rambo movie First Blood, like I do, and you want to get yourself the replica of the knife just to have it, that's great. But I certainly wouldn't recommend it as a survival knife. Even though the Rambo survival knife isn't the greatest knife for survival, it did, at a young age, inspire me to get into the woods. What I like about the First Blood movie is that you have a man with just a knife and his skills taking on the wilderness, taking on opponents where he's outnumbered and outgunned, and he just uses his skills and a knife to defeat them all and survive in the wild. And to me, that was a really powerful message, that I didn't need all kinds of gear and equipment. All I needed was skills and a sharp blade, and I could accomplish a lot. The failings of the knife aside, that's really what inspired me about the First Blood movie. And that's why it's still one of my favorite movies, and why I want to do a series of videos on some of the things that he did in the movie. I'd like to thank everybody for watching this Rambo series, and I hope you enjoyed it. Next, I'm going to choose another one of my favorite movies of all time, and that's Arnold Schwarzenegger's Predator. There's lots of great stuff in that, from building traps and building primitive weapons, that I'd like to cover. And hopefully you'll enjoy that one too, and learn something. Ants, lots of ants.